So, quick question, guys, just to head this off at the end. What country was this movie set in?
I don't know.
Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, and others, to the WMC Weekly Podcast. I am your host, CJ Hitchcock, and this week, from the Wave Motion Canon website, we've got...
I am Jimmy Gnome, at JimmyGnome9 on Twitter. If you don't know me already, I'm the Wave Motion Magical Boy.
Pat Surrey Price. I generally prefer Surrey, at SurreyBot on Twitter. I've got some stuff to say tonight.
Oh, I bet we all do. I bet we all have things to say. Our topic this week is going to be a little movie that came out. It's not an anime movie because Josh would flip his lid, but it's related to an anime movie. It's called Ghost in the Shell. Not too sure if you've heard of it or not. But this thing's making some waves, so we're going to go ahead and talk about it since we're the Wave Motion Canon. So first off, before we get too thick into the weaves, let's go ahead and go around the room and did you like it at all? Maybe.
I did not like this film at all. I think it's utter trash garbage.
No, I didn't like this movie at all, but at the same time, it kind of met my expectations. So, I don't know. I was expecting garbage going in, and that's what I got. So.
Okay, so I saw Power Rangers last week, and I definitely left the theater after Power Rangers happier than I did after Ghost in the Shell.
This movie is not good.
I mean, honestly, like, I had really low expectations too, but it was worse than I expected.
Your expectations were not low enough then, because
I guess so. Like, I was going in like this film's gonna be fucking garbage, and then I was like, wow, this is like this is a sabotage of Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah, well, I don't know if I'd say sabotage. I'd say it's just bad decision making on every single part of everyone who's involved. I mean, I'll put it this way. The movie begins with saying, a film by. That's a pretty good sign that this movie's made by a douchebag.
That's a bit much, but okay.
But I'm pretty sure the 1995 Ghost in the Shell, during its title reel, has a film by Mamoru Oshii, so... You must not like that one either.
Well, no, I didn't say I didn't like the film. I just said that the person who made the film is a little pretentious, which is code for douchebag.
Oh.
But at the same time, the dude's first name is Rupert, so, you know.
Okay, no, we're punching way too low when this movie actually has problems.
No, I'm joking. I'm being facetious.
I know.
But yeah, there are quite a few numbers of problems. For me, I think one of the biggest things that I had an issue with was pretty much how they dealt with Major. And I'm not necessarily talking about like the whole entire whitewashing thing about it. Like, there is a part of that we will discuss later on. But for me, everything really fell apart when the movie first opened. Like, when we are first being introduced to the Major, because in the original 95 film, she has this really great introduction of her standing alone on a rooftop, you know, just kind of listening to the static in these police reports, and, you know, Batra's telling her, just like, hey, are you listening? And she basically just tells him to fuck off. Like, it's a great introduction to this character. Like, you know, she's this, you know, cold badass, and she's aware of everything around her, and she's in complete control, and she's not going to listen to any kind of authority figure. It's a great introduction to that character. Really great, you know, badass kind of moment. Again, it's very small, but it's important. And in this new live-action movie, it begins with Scarlett Johansson not being able to breathe and freaking out. And it really does kind of set the tone for everything that's in this movie where she's rarely in control of anything that's happening around her in this film, and she's just kind of reacting to it and just kind of freaking out to what's happening to her and these discoveries that she makes in the film. And that really does ruin a lot of what makes that character great, you know. And
when it comes to the Major, like in Ghost in the Shell, it's never really been about her past. Like that's very rarely a topic that is even brought up. And even though she's had like a lot of different kinds of characterizations and the various types of adaptations there have been of the series, like she's always been a professional. And in this film, she doesn't really carry that at all. And honestly, like Scarlett Johansson's actual acting of the part, like I can deal with somebody interpreting a character a new way, because honestly, Ghost in the Shell as a franchise has like a ton of different sort of brands that have been made of it, and they're all pretty different. But Scarlett Johansson's role in this film is just she's very flat. She keeps the original Ghost in the Shell, the Major keeps the same face most of the time because that's just the kind of film that it is. But in this one, she's cast as like a more personal, relatable role, and her face stays the same the whole film basically. Like it's just the slightly concerned look that she has at all times, and it just there's nothing. She's nothing in this film, even though she's the core of the whole thing. It's just she just flops the part.
So,
it's awful.
Yeah.
Before we go into dunking on this movie too hard,
Sorry.
No, it's fine. I just wanted to, because I don't like this movie, but I maybe like it more than you two do, which is
Probably. I would assume
'cause
so.
I do think there is some good stuff in here. I just don't think it's like done very well, and maybe some of it was accidental. But that aside, like, let's go around and like
Whoops.
say one nice thing about this movie if you can.
Okay, there are two things I think are okay about this movie, and one of them's sort of general. I like the setting design in the film. Like it's a lot more like Blade Runner-y than it is normal Ghost in the Shell, which it's like it's a different kind of thing. Like it's a different like brand of environment, but it's still really cool to look at. And also that one scene where Beat Takeshi like shoots the hell out of all those dudes that are attacking, or like Aramaki, the chief, but he's played by Beat Takeshi. Like he's getting shot up in his car, and then he busts out and just like kills all the dudes. That's really badass,
with his
and I was into that.
Shield of Justice.
That's like the only good scene with him too. And I was just like,
I would say that's the only good action scene in the whole movie, honestly.
Yeah.
that
No,
honestly,
like,
yeah.
No, like, I actually did like Beat Takeshi, like in this movie, generally speaking.
Yeah, he's cool. Like he just speaks in Japanese and is like he fits the role. It makes me wish that they had casted other Japanese
There's
actors.
just Togusa.
Togusa, I guess, was
does
also
nothing.
Japanese. Who's not even in this
Who's
movie
basically
really.
not in there. Did you know they cast someone for Borma in this movie? Did you see them?
because I didn't.
I sure didn't.
I guess for me, the thing that I like the most about the movie, it does have some good visual effects in it here and there. I do like the makeup effect with Bato's eyes when he eventually gets them, which is another thing. But, like, apart from when they move, they do the close-up shot, like, that's stupid. But, like, when he's just kind of walking around and, like, it's just the prosthetic and whatnot, that looked pretty good. And apart from that, it's... I struggle, because, like, what you were saying about the visual effects, like, it's too busy. Like, that's my whole entire problem with it, is that there's too much going on, and it distracts from everything that's going on in that movie. Like, to get to the part with the boat, like, that scene made me like, I was laughing out loud in the theater when that scene happened, because, like, these two characters are trying to have this very serious conversation on this boat, and in the background, there's just this giant dude just running in place. And it's, like, the only thing that I can focus on during this entire scene, because, again, it's just this goofy guy running back and forth. during this very serious moment that's going on, you know.
I think it's fair to say that this film in general can be characterized as unfocused among
All right,
many other
so
things.
I do like Beat Takeshi as Aramaki in this. He's very different than what I expected from Aramaki, but like I liked him, and also just like every scene where he's in, where every single person in this movie speaks English except him. Like Beat Takeshi just walked on stage and like refused to speak English and just did the whole movie in Japanese, and then also brought that gun himself. Like, no.
Really? I didn't know that.
No,
That's
I don't know
amazing.
about that. I have no idea. I'm just, unless I'm forgetting something, I can't remember a single instance in which Aramaki has a gun. So it's just, I like to imagine that Beat Takeshi just brought that revolver himself. But I do have one thing that I want to mention that I like had me dying in the theater that I loved because it's so nothing. At the very end of the movie, after everything is resolved and Scarlett Johansson is giving her like big dramatic "this is the end of the movie" speech where I learned a lesson, I guess. They have this it's the skyline again where they have all these big busy holographic like people that you've seen for the whole movie, except fairly prominent in like the left third of the screen. There is this one very large hologram that says, I think it says AO News, like AYO. And
and there's a little dog.
And there's a little dog behind this AYO News thing that is in like a tiny like suit, and it's just like moving around, and like I think the implication is that the dog does the news. And I'm sorry, please show me that movie. Please show me the cyberpunk future where there's dogs giving the news, because I think like that's literally like a Valhalla joke. Like that's like, what is that? Like, come on.
Yeah, I feel that.
No, like I was like, if that was way earlier in the movie, that would have been fine. But the fact that it was during, it's right at the end. One of the last things you see, and I loved it. I was laughing so hard, but it was very bad.
Well, I mean, and that's just kind of a general problem with like the general look of the movie too, is that because like it is very much inspired by Blade Runner more than it is by Ghost in the Shell. Even still, with it being inspired by Blade Runner, in the Blade Runner universe, yes, there are some weird ads going on, but at the same time, those ads in Blade Runner feel realistic, like something you would actually see if you're walking down a futuristic version of New York.
It is like really weird how bright the film is, I guess. Like it's not very saturated, but the brightness is really high up.
It's like it's got two modes. One, give it all the color, and then take away all the color. Like it's got those two like styles of visuals in the movie.
It's either like really sterile or like that sort of corporate Blade Runner kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't really like.
Honestly, like it was really weird too, because like in the original Ghost in the Shell, like the '95 film, that whole scene where they chase the garbage man. That's through like the slums in that film, and there aren't really slums in this one. Like it's very pretty where they run around in the new one, and it just sort of like it loses the whole feel then.
Well, I mean, to talk about the scene with the garbage truck, I mean, it loses so much. Yeah, it loses everything that was important about that scene. Like, because like in the '95 film, like one of the most important things was that you got to know who these two garbage guys were as characters. You know, you spend like a good 3 minutes with them before shit goes down.
And then it just sort of they don't play it up at the end. They leave a hook for you to think about, and you never see the garbage man again. In this one, he fucking jumps and hangs himself in this. I was like, that was one of the parts where I just rolled my eyes really hard.
That was another scene where I was just laughing out loud when it happened.
Excuse me, I need to leave the movie now.
It's so bad.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, time to go.
Yeah, he just jumps and kills himself.
Well,
I was like, all right.
It's not even just that, but like it's that whole, because like in the movie, like it's a serious scene where they have the guy and you know he's just like, who do you see in the picture? And he's just like, it's my beautiful girl, and it's like a picture of him and his dog, and you know it's a very serious, like he's sitting behind the thing and his eyes are just kind of everywhere.
It feels grounded. Like you feel belief in that scene. Like it's relatable and it's sort of frightening.
Of like that whole entire feeling of just like, oh my god, this guy's memories have been completely wiped and he doesn't even know who he is anymore. While in the movie, like it's this big.
It's
like,
the opposite
he's
of
tied
that.
up in a straitjacket, and he's like shuffling around the room as the Major's walking back and forth.
This like mirror room. It's like this glass room for no reason.
It's where they keep Magneto in X3. I think?
Yeah, that sort of thing. And the picture they show is a hologram.
Yeah.
And like they have to play everything up.
They have to play everything up because there's no time, because they do it so fast.
Well, and not only that, but like this movie has like no subtlety to it whatsoever.
That's absolutely true. I mean,
Yeah.
yes, that is
But
an
even
absolute.
still, with the movie that has absolutely no subtlety to it, when this dude does jump and kill himself, basically it's like it happens in the corner of the screen as like the Major is walking out of that cube, and it's like he jumps, he goes off
his
frame.
legs like swing out.
Yeah,
It's
like,
so
sling out.
ridiculous. It's
And on top of that,
absurd.
like, there's almost, like, no sound effect for it either. Like, they just turn around and they're just kind of horrified, and we as the audience can't see it because it's a PG-13 movie. And it's just, just like, why?
Why would you construct like a prison where the prisoner could just do that? That
Yeah.
seems like that seems
Yeah,
that seems
for
like
real.
the number one
Yeah.
thing you should not let them do. Like,
And on
did
top
you
of that,
test
like,
it
the
at
dude's
all?
a victim. You know, like, that's the other
Yeah.
thing that doesn't make any sense to me. Like, this dude was hacked in his mind, and he's not, like, again, like, this is a dude who's suffering from, like, a really bad thing that happened to him, and they're treating him like he's, like, Magneto, like you said.
That's another thing, is that in the new film, he is the one that chases
Yeah.
the Major down and fights, whereas in the original it's a different dude, and they get him, and then the trash man
Yeah.
is like a separate thing.
Yeah, and it's also kind of weird because the way that they set that up, because, well, there is no real setup. It's just there are these garbage guys, and then, like...
Yeah, it just cuts to them, and I was like, oh, we're doing this scene from the movie now.
Yeah, because Project 271 decides to hack into him, which is weird because, like, you would think that, like, he altered his memory after he got hacked into, because, like, before then, it looks like they're relatively normal, and he's still talking about the daughter, so, like, when it goes
No,
later...
it's all a program just being run.
Yeah, like, he was hacked before he even got hacked. That's how serious he got hacked.
Yeah, like they had the guns in the garbage truck already.
Yeah.
And like
They were
like
just
had all
just
the-
pawns
Yeah.
sitting there
like
waiting.
he just had this totally ready. And like my problem with that is that there's like the guy that spends so little time talking about his daughter before he gets hacked is that like I feel like somebody watching that scene who had like didn't know what that scene was going to be
Yeah.
would have like completely put it out of their mind
Yeah.
that they got hacked at that point. 'Cause,
like they
the part
might
where
not
the-
even know like what the hell is going on.
It was just, it's like one of those things where, like, it's like they're watching the original movie, and they get to the scene like, oh, it's just this idiot talking about his daughter. I'm just going to leave this running, go to the other room, grab a beer, and come back. You know, and,
something.
like, comes back and like, oh, there's an action scene going on. You know?
That's how I think the people that made this movie watched Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah.
The thing is, like, the way that I see this from just everything that is in front of this, I really honestly feel like the people who made this do love Ghost in the Shell.
I think there was somebody somewhere, or probably multiple people, who had seen the films and were well aware of like the images of the films. Like they knew the visuals of the films well. Like they knew the plot.
No. Okay, so here's my counter to that. Is that how much of Standalone Complex did you watch?
I've seen it all, but it's been a while, and I rewatched the
Okay.
first season.
Yeah,
So,
that's kind of for
here-
me. I haven't seen it since it was on Toonami.
Here's the thing that I need to bring up. So you know how this movie is basically structurally, he's just like the puppeteer or the puppet master from the Oshi film. Like he's the guy's just doing that.
To a point. but-
Okay, no,
a
but, like,
little
even-
bit.
yeah.
No, but here's the thing: like all of the things that he does to get his goal are the same things that the puppet master does to do that.
Yes.
Even though the character itself is very different,
very
but even the
different.
end is kind of the thing of where it's like, "Hey, I'm just gonna go live in the fiber optic now. Well, come with me." And then like, okay, but the part that I'm getting at is so the first opening scene is basically just the beginning of the Oshi film, like. Obviously,
Yes.
with a lot, like more changed in that opening scene than the rest of it.
They sort of inject a little bit of innocence in there too with the
Okay.
geishas.
So here's the thing: is that the dude looked kind of like how I would imagine like a movie version of the Puppet Master looking, and he was directly controlling them, and he did the same thing. So he's like, "Here is this criminal that we're looking for, and his name is," and I go like, "Oh, it's gonna be the puppeteer," and he goes, "Kuze," and I'm like, "What?" What? because that is the main villain of Second Gig.
Okay, yeah.
that
I
is
feel
that is the principal antagonist of the Individual 11, who I want to bring up because so they brought in a person who in the television show specifically did have some ties to the Major's past, so they could rewrite that thing that they have at the end of the movie. Like, here's the thing is, like, the whole structure of this movie with both the visual language and with, like, the references, like, the way they are building this, I feel like the people involved in this do love Ghost in the Shell. I also feel like they have no idea what Ghost in the Shell is about.
That is a good way of saying it.
Yeah, because, like, when you have a scene in the movie where someone literally says the problem with humans is that they have a heart, like, that really shows, like, that they didn't get the original Ghost in the Shell movie.
Well, no. 'Cause
Well,
that
okay,
guy is the
I feel
villain,
like
but...
this film is, there are a lot, like I've said, there's a lot of different Ghost in the Shells, but they all sort of share, like, the same general concepts, and this one sort of goes against all of those. Like, whereas all of these other ones are just sort of presenting ideas of humans getting like cybernetic enhancements. Like, never is it like the setting in Ghost in the Shell, first of all, is never like really anti-government. Like, the Section 9 is a part of the government, and there are parts of the government that are portrayed as bad, but it's a lot more grounded in the way that it's used, whereas this new Ghost in the Shell is like straight up dystopian. Like, they just have like all these awful,
Well,
like the main villain of this film is like a fucking comic book villain, and not in like a Ghost in the Shell comic book way.
Right, because like he's not, like, that dude's not even a part of the government. He's a part of a big corporation.
It's literally just evil. It's just corporations are evil.
Yeah.
Because remember, like, the Section 9 did, like, 1, didn't know any of this. 2, basically did nothing wrong in this entire movie. 3, the end of the movie is like, yeah, yo, I talked. It's Beat Takeshi like, hey, yo, I talked to the Prime Minister. He says, fuck you. Like, basically.
It's just so weird to see this sort of theme in Ghost in the Shell, when that sort of stuff has never been like. It's a lot more interested in bringing up like thoughtful things about the nature of humanity, and sometimes like there are little bits of like like there's some bureaucracy stuff in there, like that's
also,
a common thing, but it's never portrayed in this way.
There also is like this one of the early chapters in the manga does have like a bunch of kids that are kidnapped to be like in the orphanage, but like most of them,
that's like innocence.
like most of them like kept their like. They didn't just, like, kidnap people and then also, like, harvest their bodies and wipe their minds.
Yeah, I know. I've read it.
So, my issue... I don't want to skip around too much, but I do want to get to some bit about the fucking whitewashing in this, because there is actually, I think, something valuable to say there.
Yes, there is.
There's a lot of fucking problems with that.
Yeah, there is a lot of that we could talk on that. Yeah,
I genuinely feel the concept of there is, like, an anti-government... somewhat like I don't know how deep they were in on this, or like how much of a serious group they were, but like the major Motoko Kusanagi before the events of this movie was like Motoko.
Yeah.
No, I
just frustrated.
We'll get to that too. Was like a member of like some sort of like young adults like revolutionary group. And I think that there is like there's a real good like nugget of plot of the thing in there where if you give the summary of young Japanese woman is an anti-government group, is kidnapped by a corporation, brainwashed, has her brain put in a white lady body to be made like a literal tool of the government to like work for the man, like that is like a good idea for some cyberpunk stuff, but they don't like they reveal that and then it's time for the spider tank fight, and then the movie's over.
Which he literally calls a spider tank.
I mean, it is a spider tank, but don't like call it a spider tank. And it's not like I also
just
little...
like that whole entire line delivery of like send in the spider tank. Like it's just...
I was like I was rolling my eyes really hard.
Okay, Norman Osborn.
I mean, no, it's like it is a spider tank, and like we call it a spider tank, but like don't have the people in the like there's call it like something tactical or something like
the SP-18 or something like that. You know,
like literally anything. Call it the Reddit-smobile. I'd be happier.
To me, this feels a lot worse then like the whitewashing thing. Like, I guess we can go ahead and crack open the can of worms, because in this film there is an Asian. Well, okay. Motoko Kusanagi is not like, the Major doesn't know that is like not her name at the beginning of the movie. Like,
Major Mira,
she has a different one. It's like Mira.
Mira
Yeah,
Killian.
like, even though Motoko Kusanagi was an alias in the first place, like in the original. Yeah, it's dumb, but I think that there might be like this is like stupid conspiracy theory level stuff here, but thinking about it, this Japanese girl who's named after the original Ghost in the Shell dies and is transplanted into a white body that is the Major, that takes, like, is the main character most of the film. And to me, it's like, that is a very good metaphor for what this film is as a whole, because you take this Japanese spirited work and you basically kill it, and you put it into this like really bland, poorly acted white American body, and just like it totally loses everything along the way. Like it passes forgotten. Like it's the way that whole thing is set up, and the way that the themes are so contrary to what Ghost in the Shell is in general. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Like, it seems like something that somebody would have to consciously make a decision to be like, we are not doing Ghost in the Shell the way that the Japanese do Ghost in the Shell. We're going to make it a goddamn revenge story, just like the Americans love. And we're going to have Scarlett Johansson as the main character. And it's going to sell millions.
I do.
And everybody's gonna fucking forget about that Japanese thing.
Because
like that's what it feels like to me.
Because like a big thing about where it really does feel different is that in the '95 film, like the climax of the movie is where she's gonna jump into the puppet master's body and confront him head on, and like it's a very serious moment. Yes. And the way that this movie does it is that they more or less reenact that scene, but at the very beginning of the movie, like it's one of the first things that she does, and like in the '95 film, it really does feel like, you know, this big serious moment that she's got to confront him now. Here now, she needs the answers that she needs to figure out, and you know, then they kind of had the whole entire, you know, like what is the point of humanity kind of fight that is at the end of that movie. And here, like, there is none of that, and like there's no stakes, and like when she's doing it, it feels like a mistake. Like everything about what she is doing feels like a trap, and just like, no, you don't, like, again, like, this geisha body that you're jumping into is obviously a trap left by this dude. Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah. That scene reminded me, again, a lot of Innocence, like Ghost of the Shell Innocence. Like, there are little bits of Innocence scattered throughout the movie, and, like, that hospital scene feels really Innocence. The scene with, I mean, Bato has a dog in this, so it's pretty
the same kind
innocent.
of dog, actually.
And I mean, there is a basset hound, so I mean, Oshii was like,
he was okay
to
with
me,
it.
That's like all that he needed. Yeah, he's like, this movie's fine. It's got
this movie has a real dog. It's better than mine.
Okay, that's something I sort of wanted to talk about too. Is this the movement in this film feels somehow more robotic than the animation of the original Ghost in the Shell. Like when Major at the very beginning, when they do the whole like intro sequence, and then there's a scene where she in the '95 film, she sits up in her room and it's like sort of silhouetted, and she just has like a really natural pose, and there's nothing wrong with it, so nothing really stands out, but it's a really good shot. And in this, I immediately, like, they did the scene, like, the exact shot, and I immediately was like, why does the Major look like she's so fucking uncomfortable in her own bed? Like, it just doesn't make sense.
I feel like the scene that kind of, like, capitalized all of that is this really random, bizarre scene where for no reason she goes and talks to this prostitute and invites her and just kind of pokes and prods her the entire time, just like
it felt. I was feeling like they were gonna do like one of those scenes in the manga where they just fuck just cause. And I was like, oh shit, and then
and it's just like, do you feel this? And it's just like, really?
Like, yes. There is a trailer. There is a trailer shot for that where they kiss, and then like I guess there was more of that scene, and they just like cut it. Like,
it's got to be a PG-13. You can't have two ladies kissing on it.
Oh, don't. Someone probably said that. I hate this. Okay, so I feel like just before we wrap up on this, there is a very like Ghost in the Shell sort of overlay to this movie that I'm not 100% sure was intentional, because like aesthetically a lot of the stuff in this doesn't work for me. Like the spider tank looks bad, not because like the CGI is bad, though it kind of is. Just because, like, the aesthetic design of it looks, like, way too blocky, and it just kind of looks like it's, like, made out of, like, squared-off bricks, and there's, like, right angles on everything, whereas, like, all of the, like, sort of hardware and other Ghost in the Shell stuff usually has, like, natural curves to it, because you've kind of mastered tech, and you don't need to have square, like, non-ablative armor. But, this whole movie, the Major kind of feels like in this whole movie, just, how to put this? Like, she's very uncomfortable in just the whole world. And I feel like this is intentional. I feel like they're going for, even though this entire world is, like, heavily connected, and everyone has augmentations, and everyone is, like, able to connect their brain directly into the network, just everybody's, like, completely connected and, like, moving towards, like, not purely digital, but, like, very heavily augmented and heavily cyber, like, future. And the Major, even though she is completely... like a full prosthetic body, she feels like disconnected from the rest of the world, and it feels like the technology is what has driven her apart from all of this. The part that I kind of like is that the twist of this movie is essentially, no, it's not the technology that is separating her from her fellow humans. It is fellow humans that are dividing her from other humans. Like, what is keeping her apart from the rest of society is other people. It has nothing to do with her body. It has nothing to do with her consciousness. It has nothing to do with the progress of technology. The only thing that is stopping her from connecting with other people is other people. And I feel like that's a really good, like, I feel like a good little nugget of Ghost in the Shell in this movie. And I am almost positive that it was not intentional, because this movie is so utterly lacking in subtlety that I feel like if they... The rest of this movie is so unsubtle that if they actually did think of that, they would have played it up more. Like, it feels accidental.
I guess the last thing that I'll go ahead and talk about was that you have this government, like, organization, like covert ops, and, you know, they're supposed to go in quietly, take care of these things, not let the public know. And in this movie, everything's a big, giant American action movie scene. So, like, you'll have this, like, in the introduction scene, like, it has to be this big thing where there's civilian casualties and witnesses everywhere, and, like, the Major has to come in, kick open a window, and, like, you know, do Matrix shooting all across the, you know, all the hacked robots and whatnot. And, you know, that's not what the movie is about. Like, even when they do the bar scene, which is very odd and kind of uncomfortable, especially that scene where she's locked up against the... on the stripper pole, like, that scene was just awkward to watch.
There's only it's the only action scene in this movie that feels original, beside from Beat Takeshi and his briefcase, and it is very bad.
Yeah,
like that is an original action scene, and it's just badly constructed front to back.
Yeah, because again, like it shows that they're incapable of being sneaky about anything. They're incapable of, like, keeping witnesses down. They can't contain they can't get the information that they want. And, like, it's just, that kind of feels like everything that happens in this movie. It's all, things just kind of happen to this team, and they're not responsible for any of the successes that's in it, you know? Like, even with, like, the spider fight, like, it just kind of ends for almost no reason. Like, it just, like... they reenact the thing where she, you know, her arm gets ripped off, and that's it. You know, like, it just...
like, she ripped out a thing of the tank instead of, like, Bato coming in and saving the day.
Right. I miss that they didn't have that giant fuck-off gun that he had in the movie.
I want to talk about that scene, actually. Again, my big beef is that this really just feels like it totally reframes Ghost in the Shell as a Western story. And one of the things that makes that really obvious is the original 95 film has collectivist themes, transhumanist themes of and the whole climax of the film is right at the end when she's connecting to the puppet master, and they sort of have that talk about that sort of brings to all the themes that had been built up to that point about the Major not knowing her own identity, having an existential crisis, is there's that sort of freedom that they agree to, where they both live together and assimilate and sort of become what is sort of implied to be a more perfect being.
It's an evolution to the next phase of both technology
and
humanity. Yeah.
In this film, they sort of have something like that, where the villain is laying there. Well, he's not the real villain, because it's their friends.
Yeah, that's another thing, because because he's another victim of the government, of not the government, but of this corporation. That was another thing that really bugged me, was that, again, you've taken this villain and you've basically turned him into yet another victim of this big, Walmart corporation that's going on.
And he's just oh, let's they're laying in the same position. I'm like, okay, here's the part where they do that scene, and then he just absorbs into her consciousness, and I was ready to just be done with that shit. But then she's like, no. She says no, and I feel like that's just somebody was watching the film and
ending.
was like, the to me it's that isn't an American value, and a true American would keep their identity. We're individualists. We'll keep our identity how it is. And I mean, she just found her past finally, because that's the whole setup for this movie is the Major regaining her identity as a human, and that's just so distanced from it's in the opposite direction of what the original was trying to say. And then they shoot the man. They shoot him.
I think he gets out of there.
He can do anything.
I think he does get out.
He's just
dead. His eyes kind of went white before that happens. So I think he backed out or something.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So we can have the sequel.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So.
Oh no! Please don't.
Don't worry. I'm pretty sure Boss Baby's gonna kill this thing at the box office. But
So quick question, guys. Just to head this off at the end. What country was this movie set in?
Oh no.
Because was it Japan?
No.
Because they never said that, and everyone speaks English, but they do have a prime minister.
However, the only opportunity where they would have had to say that is the beginning, where the Major, who is giving her fake past, is like, yes, my parents were refugees coming to this country.
Yep.
Yeah, and not only that, but just that scene's really weird, because it just raises red flags. As you had this woman who is saying I was on this boat in refugees, and the terrorists killed my my family, and you had this dude in the other room just you know what? Let's make her a super soldier. Just what sense does that make? Assuming that this whole entire backstory is real. And of course it's not. But at the same time, it's just what sense does that make? It's just hey, this person who is not from this country, let's have them join our government organization as one of its brightest soldiers.
It's all right,
who's we're able to train within just a single year.
I feel any Bato would have been
sense.
really, is that?
Yeah.
Did that happen? That doesn't seem like that happened. That sounds fake, Major. That sounds like you made that up.
Yeah.
But I do want to say, honestly, something that probably worked against this movie harder for me, is just because I know stuff, is after they're setting up refugee areas works for Ghost in the Shell. That is a thing. But setting up refugee areas and then introducing and his name is Kuze, and I'm sorry, is there going to be a socialist uprising of the refugees? Is that what you're doing, or are you just using his name?
All of the references are totally mishandled.
Yeah, they're just references. Just look, here's
when they just have a plane fly over because they're hell, we watched that movie one time, Ghost in the Shell. Yeah. and they have no fucking clue.
But like again, like
Yeah.
No
like,
clue.
somebody specifically dug through like Ghost in the Shell and found Kuze, who in Ghost in the
Yeah.
Shell did like he and the Major like knew each other when they were like 6 years old because they were both like in the same accident or something and both got like full body prosthesis. I don't remember if they actually knew each other's names back then. I don't think they did. Like, I don't think there was actually, like, an important connection there. It was just, like, a nagging thing that bothered the Major the whole time. Like, I'm a little fuzzy on Second Gig, to be honest, but, like, I was really just expecting, like...
Yeah,
I was
same.
expecting, like, socialist, like, uprising for a brief moment. I'm like, no, they're not gonna do that. They're not gonna do, like...
Yeah. Well, now I'll tell you what we are going to do, is that we're going to go ahead and move on to our next section, which is going to be a what have you been watching this week? Just kind of a general thing. You know, we're just going to talk about, you know, things that have been piquing up our interest. So I guess I'll go ahead and start first with this whole entire thing. And I actually got the chance. I'll probably be talking about this theater a lot in the upcoming episodes because I'm going to be visiting them quite often. We have an art house theater in Nashville called the Belcourt. And this last Monday, they did a theatrical screening of Interstellar 4/5, the Daft Punk anime movie.
Oh, okay, cool.
Hell
Cool.
yeah.
So I got to go see that in the theater, and it was a pretty awesome experience. Now, one thing I kind of forgot about 4/5 is that it's a full screen movie. It's not widescreen, and that was
It's
kind of
4x3.
yeah. It's a 4x3 movie, and I kind of forgot that going in, so it was really weird seeing a 4x3 movie up on the big screen. That's normally supposed to be something that you see in widescreen, but aside from that, like it was a. I honestly, I think they probably just grabbed the Blu-ray and just kind of was playing off of that. But yeah, like the theater at the Belcourt's super awesome, and nice. Like there's like two theaters. One's kind of like the smaller theater that they do a lot of their kind of second run movies, and then their big screen. And like you can get 200 people into the smaller screen and 300 people into the other screen. And there were so many tickets sold that they had to move it from the smaller screen to the bigger screen. So there were at least over 200 people who came to go see the movie that night.
Nice.
And the best thing about the whole entire experience is that everyone who is there to see that movie. No one is there to like make their own riff tracks, which is a problem I constantly run into when I go and see movies in theaters these days, is that people want to talk and make fun of the movie.
Yeah.
But like, there was a moment where after they got done playing trailers for the next couple of movies that they're getting ready to play at the theater went completely dark. Like, there were no lights anywhere, and you couldn't hear a pin drop. Like, it was
A good theater experience.
Yeah, it was a great theater experience, because again, like, you're in complete darkness with over 200 people in this one room, getting ready to watch this movie, and not one person is saying anything, you know. And it was like a good 2-minute moment of just darkness before the movie started. And like, again, like that, I really did enjoy that experience, because again, like, everyone who is there to see that movie. And on top of that, like, no one's saying just like, oh, those crazy Japanese people and their cartoons. Like, everyone, you know, again, like, they're just
I'll say, like,
this movie.
that's good. Like, and I think with more niche like anime films, that's probably going to be the case. But then, like, when I go and see Kizumonogatari at the Plaza, which is a theater down in Atlanta, I've had some good theater experiences, but also, like, the anime types can be just as bad, who are like, just, you know, like, they'll be cheering at Araragi, or like the panty shot at the beginning of the movie, and they're just like, ah, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, guys, this is a fucking serious movie.
Yeah, those panty shots are deadly serious in this movie.
Although I guess with Interstellar 4 or 5, like, that's a music video, so everybody's there sort of listen, which is good.
Yeah,
that's really
and
good.
At the top of that, like, again, like, the movie plays, no one says anything. You know, we're all enjoying this movie. Like, I had gone and seen Pink Floyd's The Wall 2 weeks earlier, which was another fantastic thing. But since it's not anime and I don't want Josh coming down on me too hard, that was a very awesome emotional experience. And, like, even though with that movie there were still people kind of, you can hear people behind you kind of humming along to the music. Like, there was this one lady behind me who was singing along with one or two of them. But, like, none of that during this screening. Like, everyone was just quietly listening to it. And at the very end, when the credits start rolling, there was an applause. And that was also, like, really, really nice. Like, it was one of those things where it just, like, you know, everyone who came to see this movie, not only did they get to see it, but they, like, thoroughly enjoyed it enough to give it a round of applause and stuff like that. And that, again, like, it was a good experience. Like, it was just really, really great and nice and whatnot. So that was
Cool.
kind of the main thing that I saw this week. How about you, Jimmy? What did you get? See anything this week?
I think it's been within this week that I finally sat down and finished Fun Pharmacy, which is a Toei magical girl show. That's like, I think it's like 98, like slightly predates Doremi, and its director is who's directing the current season of Pretty Cure. And I was wanting to go back to sort of familiarize myself with that dude, and also their other, like, it just looked really nice, and I've been wanting to watch it for a while. It's got half-length episodes for the most part, like 11 minutes a piece about, which is pretty nice. It's like a 50-episode show. There are a few that are double length, but it's really, really nice and cute. I like how little exposition there is. Like, you can describe the whole show as just a girl moves into town and becomes a witch, and that's the whole show. That's it. Like, it's totally episodic adventures, and there is absolutely no, like, overarching plot or anything like that. Which I like that sort of style. It gives more room for the individual creators to sort of stretch their legs and do whatever they want, and they have some really creative episodes in that show, including one by Takuya Igarashi, who is one of the directors, and becomes main director of Doremi, one of my favorite dudes. He does a really, really good episode towards the end of that show, one of the double-length ones that was one of the best episodes I've seen in recent memory.
What was that episode about?
It was really good. What was it about? It was about the main character of the show, Puri. She finds a book, and it sucks her into it, and she basically explores all these different worlds, and with her friend, who is also sucked into the book on the other side of, like, the world, and they sort of have adventures and get separated, and then they have to find each other, and it's just like, they're all these really creative set pieces, and it actually gets really emotional when they're trying to find each other, and they start, like, getting really disheartened, and then they, at the very last moment, they show up, and it's really good. I love the episode to death, and the visual direction is top notch.
I don't know. It kind of sounded like you described
Igarashi.
the music video for "Take on Me" for a little bit, but
Yeah, it's a little bit like that.
like that.
But
Are they chased by biker dudes at the end of it? The brunches.
They're chased by like little accordion things. Like, there's a lot of weird stuff that happens.
Like, are they anthropomorphic accordions or dudes with accordions?
So they got eyes. Okay. They and like they sort of like bounce around, and it's really weird. I don't know. Like, it's something that is something that you could just sort of watch, even though you don't know anything about the show. Because, like I said, the show is like no plot. It's just this girl becomes a witch, and that's it. So it's good, but like most of the episodes are really good anyway. So
Okay.
it's a nice watch
And
either way. But yeah, I powered through that whole show in like 2 days, and it was a lot of fun.
And what's it called again?
It's called Fun Pharmacy.
Fun Pharmacy. And did you have to
Download
it?
that show? Yeah, there's no official release, unfortunately.
That's unfortunate.
But that's how it is when you're a kid show watcher. I will gladly buy any sort of merchandise or actual DVDs or Blu-rays that get released for these shows when they actually get released.
I've been on that note of like having to find less than legal ways of acquiring things and then buying them when they're legal. I've been trying to get a hold of like the Shout Factory releases for like the old Sentai stuff they've been putting out, because I very, very much want to support more Toku coming into America. I don't actually have the sets yet, so I can't like talk about like Z-Ranger or something like that. The only thing that I have on topic is before I went off for Ghost in the Shell, I watched exactly enough of Attack on Titan to watch the opening. And I just wanted to bring this up because I think it's funny. Is like almost the whole thing is like very standard, like what you would get out of like the last two Attack on Titan openings, of like the big like kind of like nationalistic imagery and like the big sweeping things and the fights and like the thick lines and the dramatic sequences. And there's one part where they're doing like the pose where they have their fist over their heart, like swearing allegiance to the king because this is weird and monarchistic. And there's like in this shot where they're showing all of their bodies and they all like have it's just like a normal shot, but they have their hearts like the shape of their heart like illuminated in red in their body. And then like it basically like this is like the last like 15 seconds of the opening. So it's just that shot, and then it has like a normal shot, and then it shows like a bunch of like a bison running, and all of them have hearts, and then it shows like then it shows an iguana eating a beetle, and both of them it has like the red illuminated hearts, and there's a whale, and there's like a squid fighting like a giant thing, and there's a bee, and then there's the beast titan, and there's birds.
I knew that they could.
And then-
I knew they
and
could
then
turn
there's-
into
and there's
titans,
birds
but I didn't know
fighting,
they
there's
could
a
turn into
spider
all
eating a
kinds of
bug, and
animals.
there's like crocodiles, and there's owls. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm actually watching this. I'm just going through it. There was a polar bear that dragged like a porpoise
Yeah.
out of the water, and it had both of their hearts. And then there's the. And
This
there's-
This sounds like
This
this
is
sounds like
intense.
Terrence
There's like
Malick
some sort of
directed
like
it.
I don't know. I think
Jesus.
it's like an Animorcalis, but it's like a deep sea like fish, and it doesn't show their hearts, but it shows like the like basically two red lines down its body for depicting its circulatory system, and then it's the beast titan running next to an elephant, a very large crocodile, a hippo,
Oh my
a
God.
giraffe, and I don't remember what this is called, but it is a dinosaur. It's like the not like the duckbill thing, but like the curved like a it's like a parasite.
I know
thing.
what you're
And it's
talking
just
about. I see it in my
Is it
brain.
the one that was Plucky from
No, because
Land
Plucky
Before
was the
Time?
duckbill
There
one,
we go.
wasn't she? Ducky? Because Ducky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ducky was
I'm
the-
trying to, I can't think of that. But it just
Yeah,
like
that's some
completely
good
loses
memory
its
you
mind.
guys
Like, it's
got.
visually neat. And okay, yeah, and then the next shot is all of those, but also there's a T-Rex and two giant whales flying, and all of their hearts are also illuminated. Like it just completely loses its shit.
I don't remember in the first. Oh wait, there
There
are
are
horses
horses.
in Attack on
Yes.
Titan. I know that there are a lot of horses, but I
No,
don't really
there
remember like
is-
a whole
no,
lot of wildlife
there is-
in that show.
There's horses and there are birds and like sometimes butterflies. But there really are not a lot of animals. Like I can't recall a dog or a cat
Yeah.
showing up in that show ever. Which is like a very
Yeah, no,
I don't know. I just
I don't know.
it's very funny.
yeah, because
That
yeah,
is pretty
it's-
weird. That's a pretty cool sounding
Yeah,
opening.
Well,
I
just,
should probably watch
I
that
will.
episode.
I'll definitely be checking out the second season of Attack on Titan, but
Yeah.
I don't know because again, like I watched the first season, might as
Yeah,
well keep
I-
up with it.
like it
Um,
enough, but like I'm not sure how far this will get, and I'm a little worried about momentum because there is a
Yeah.
part of Attack on Titan where it definitely loses steam. I think where the manga is currently is actually like they got to the basement and it was worth it, and it has actually been like incredibly interesting in the months since then. Like, but there is a very long period before that where it's just like.
Gotcha.
I really don't give a shit. I didn't like the first season that much. But I will maybe watch.
At
I will
bare
maybe
minimum,
watch a
check out
few
the opening
episodes
for
of the
this,
second
like,
season and
first-
just be like,
It's,
yeah, that's.
it's-
I will
it's
check
just
out the
like-
openings. That
it's
sounds
perfect,
really
like,
good.
It's a minute and 15 seconds of of like exactly what you would expect from this opening, and then it just loses it. It just loses.
And
its
then it just
mind.
goes off the
There's,
fucking
like,
rails.
There's like I don't remember the proper name, but there is like a flying Loch Ness monster in this. Plesiosaurus, is that the actual proper
Oh
name,
my
or is
God.
that fake like a brontosaurus now? I don't know. I can't.
I thought it was like a Plasiosaurus or something.
Yeah, I don't know if that. I don't keep up
Yeah.
with paleontology stuff.
Yeah, so we're gonna get ready to wrap up, and at the end of our show, we have special Patreon benefits and whatnot. And if you're over $1, one thing that you can do is you can send us questions to the show, and we'll answer them on the air. We sent a notification out to our listeners, and we got a question for our first episode, which is about Ghost in the Shell. It is sent in by a Lum Ramba Yasha. And the question's a bit
Hell
lengthy,
yeah.
but and it does revolve around Ghost in the Shell, so here it is. Do you think there is a cultural context for the new Ghost in the Shell movie's regressive technophobia? Soro's manga and Oshi's film embrace transhumanism and the integration of humanity with technology, but the live-action films explicitly rejects it and deplores the transplant of the Major's ghost into an entirely robotic shell as transgressive on her humanity, identity, and individuality. It is infuriatingly shallow fear of technological evolution and a stark ideological deviation from the core themes of the franchise. So do you think there is something culturally going on in the West or Hollywood right now, a general distrust of technology that inspired the rewrite?
I personally feel like this sort of connects with what I was saying earlier about individualism versus collectivism. And like I think that the fear of developing technologies and sort of escaping like our human shape is something that's more feared in the West because our culture is so individualistic. Like it's like we're very we need to go out and win, we need to compete and that sort of thing. And that's the kind of fear that is drawn up. Like when we have robot stories, it's mostly about robots being evil. I would say like a lot of sci-fi is about that, and especially when it's about like cyberization, it's never or is very rarely casted in a positive light. And I think that's the total, like most of the time in the Eastern like media, that's not true. And Ghost in the Shell is really representative of this. And I think that's just one of those things where they're like, okay, this isn't going to work for this film because if somebody's sitting in this film and it's trying to actually have like these transhumanist themes, it's, well, first of all, it's probably going to go over their heads, but also, and it's easier to reframe this in a way that is that works with the revenge story. So like there's definitely some laziness there, but I think that even deeper than that, it's just that it doesn't mesh well with American values. So yeah, I think there's a cultural context to that, and it's just American individualism.
So I'm going to preface this that I do want to get this out of the way first. Everything I explain from here on, I don't think the movie does this particularly well, and I think that the intended message is very muddied by the fact that the execution of most concepts in this movie the execution is bad. But I do feel like this is kind of what they were going for. I don't feel like it's intended that the technological aspect is what is a transgression upon the Major's body, or upon her thing. There is... It definitely reads a little awkward the way they put it, but like consistently like, hey, we can wipe your memory. Do you consent to this? And it's like, yeah, no, I consent to this. I consent to this. I allow this to happen. I allow this to happen. And it kind of hammers that down of like, in theory, this is something that you have to consent to. Like this has to be a thing that you agree with. And near the end of the movie, when it's being revealed, like, oh, they actually, like, the Major wasn't a refugee. She was just someone they kidnapped and like stole her body. And it, like kind of what I was getting at earlier is that she feels isolated and like attacked, and that she has been something human has been taken from her, and she feels as though she cannot connect. But what has actually been taken from her is not her body, it is her past and her memories that have been taken from her. And the body that she is given and the technology is not what is actually keeping her away from her like contact and that thing. It is what they have done to her like internal functions. And they try to play up that like there is some at least pretense of, no, you need to consent to this, and then because it's an evil corporation, they're like, no, we actually didn't need your consent the whole time, and we can just totally do whatever we want. And the final act of the movie is Aramaki I like this because this is also going back to Beat Takeshi, because he's good.
I hated the scene that you're about to say.
No, I don't think this is good. Again, I don't think this is well handled. I think it's badly handled. But the intent, I feel, was Aramaki, who goes like, hey, yo, you're under arrest. Like, but then also, also, by the way, Major, I got the dude. You want me to smoke this dude? Want me to just smoke this dude in the gut? And she's like, yeah, no, do that. I consent to this happening. Fuck him up. And Takeshi's just like, all right.
I mean, it's just
And-
the wording is
No,
just so bad.
No, the wording is awkward and bad.
It's so
but
bad.
I do genuinely think that what they were going for in this movie is that there is a perceived fear of technology in advance, but it's actually just not the technology itself, but humans using it poorly to like influence and like oppress other humans and basically take advantage and like of other people. That it's not the technology that is evil or to be afraid of, it is other people misusing that thing. And the end of the movie when Kuze, who basically is just doing the Puppet Master thing, is saying, hey, I'm ready to upload my consciousness into the Ethernet, just I'm ready to go. I'm ready to like put myself in the cloud. She's like, she's like, no, because there is one reading of that where it is, yeah, she doesn't want to do that, but what he's doing is not presented as something that is like is wrong, or like she says I'm not ready to leave yet.
Yeah, she
She's
does
not.
say that.
I'm not. It's not because it's not. I can't do that. It's I'm not ready. Like that is a goal. That is a thing that she can look at, but it's not now. She's still here for that. That is a future that is open to her, but she like kind of accepts what has happened. Like she kind of accepts the technology of it because again, that wasn't what was separating her from other humanity. It's the other humans like fucking her over that does that.
I think this is that's a good point, but also if you read this as like, well, if you read her situation specifically as her technology being whiteness, it gets super problematic incredibly fast.
Oh no, you have really good
Like
there.
that gets really bad really fast.
Oh no. Okay.
I just just leave it at that. Just I like the way that you're reading it.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
Oh, that's like really bad, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and throw in my 2 cents real quick on this. I kind of feel like one of the big problems with this as well, and I really don't feel like this movie was about technology at all. And
Technology
like, I
is
feel
more
like
like the cool
they
shit.
had
that
the
they
technology in.
I see what you're saying.
Right, yeah, it's more of like, hey, here are the cool special effects shots that we can do nowadays. Like, it feels like that's more of what they're trying to do with the technology more than anything else in this movie. And I feel like, at its core, I kind of feel like this whole entire movie was just made to let special effects houses go nuts with some of their visuals and whatnot. Because, again, like, there are some cool shots and whatnot, but I don't really feel like there's any real impact with any of the robotic stuff that happens in the story. Like, I don't really feel like it's trying to say anything, and I don't really feel like that's a Western fear of technology for why it's omitted. I feel like it's just ignorance and just stupidity of
the source,
not understanding what the original was about.
That is a valid,
of not understanding what the source
statement. Like, I could totally see that.
So and it's one of those things where it just like I don't see, like, I'm sure when they pitched this movie, I'm pretty sure they probably didn't even mention that it was an anime. Like, they were just like, oh, it's this movie about robots. It's kind of like Blade Runner. And we'll have Scarlett Johansson shooting things up, and it's about her fighting big pharma and whatnot. And I'm sure they went ahead and threw a couple of bucks at it and were like, all right, go make your movie. You know, like, again, like, that's just generally kind of how I feel.
I mean,
about this
it is probably
thing.
a reflection
like, it's one of those...
on Hollywood in general to sort of like take this sort of unique thing and make it just a Hollywood thing. Like, they just totally shift everything so it becomes just homogeneous with other Hollywood films.
So, again, my whole argument on that is assuming that the movie was good, because I kind of don't think a lot, like...
Yeah.
I feel like that was kind of what they were going for. I just think
we can like
So that's we can just assume like that is our general opinion on all of this. I kind of don't feel like it was intended to be a Hollywoodization. I feel like it was because they're bad at making movies. They seem to not be good at making the movie. Like
So you think they were trying to
I
like
feel like they were trying
break
to,
a formula?
I
Like,
feel like they were trying to do like right by Ghost in the Shell and are just bad at it.
whew.
I genuinely feel like
I don't know what's worse.
like point of reference. Yeah.
Because there's studio interference, but this was a movie where it just everything that was happening on screen didn't feel like it was forced in by some studio head being like, oh, you need to get the mother a motherly figure that she can talk
my god,
to.
that scene was so bad. Oh my god.
It was super awkward.
Yeah, that entire character is a whole nother thing. But it just, everything about this movie, I just don't, I just
they just
do
didn't
not
put
buy
enough thought
that.
into it, at least, or they put
they
so
didn't.
much thought into it that were bad thoughts that it's even worse.
That's kind of where I'm at, honestly.
Well, yeah, and it kind of, because it kind of feels like they're gonna oh, there's this thing that looks cool, but I can fix it. It feels like that too. But I don't really kind of feel like there was any kind of big corporate head being like, oh, you need to add more action scenes.
It just honestly feels to me
that.
the people involved in this who are making the decisions, making some of the decisions at least, do really care about Ghost in the Shell. I just think that one, they don't either don't understand it or don't have the capacity to act on that understanding of it, and two, don't seem to be that good at making movies, just in general.
Well, at that, thank you again for the question. Again, if you want to send us a question to the show, go ahead and hit up our Patreon. We're only just $1. $1 is all you need if you want. And everyone who's already a part of the Patreon, hey, you can send in questions and we'll mention you on the show and whatnot. Another little bonus that we have going on is that if you're a $10 plus person to our Patreon, we'll go ahead and give you a little shout on the show. And we've got some people here. We would like to personally thank Osama_A.
Love you, Osama.
Cornelia Natsudeet. I'm probably saying that wrong, and I apologize. Chris Magnafito. And Ben Grant. Thank you very much to supporting to the Patreon, and thank you to everyone else who is on the Patreon. You will be on the video version that will be up on YouTube when this hits out, that you'll probably see on the page and whatnot. So, that's going to bring our first weekly to a close. I would like to thank both Siri and Jimmy for joining me today, and look forward to having you guys on again in future episodes and whatnot. Enjoyed my time. Where's the best place to find you guys at?
At Jimmy09 on Twitter.
At Surrybot on Twitter, 100%.
That is, you will get me in a second.
Excellent. And are you guys working on anything for the site right now?
I'm working on stuff, but I'll leave it a secret for now.
I have a Ghost in the Shell. I actually have a Ghost in the Shell piece that should be going up in the next. Hopefully, by the time this podcast is out, it should be up. Maybe a day or two later. Not sure.
Another bit that's going to be coming up to the site this week is that we're going to have a new translation piece featuring Oshi talking about Ghost in the Shell 2, so that's something else you can look forward to. Excellent. So, depending on how you found the show, you can find us on iTunes. This is going to be connected to the regular Wave Motion Canon podcast feed. You will also find us on YouTube. Descriptions for that will be in the show notes and whatnot. Just so I have it right and I don't botch up that information. And again, you can follow us on our website, wavemotioncanon.com. And my project is pretty much going to be this. This is pretty much what I'm going to be focusing on for right now. So yes, thank you very much for listening. And I hope you see us again next week, where we're going to be talking about the Sakugas and the other fun things that's been going on in the anime community. So again, this is CJ Hitchcock, at CJ Hitchcock on Twitter. Signing out.
Bye-bye.